Hey guys, Sarah here, Thrifting for the Nest. I wanted to talk to you about the Goodwill Outlet. I seem to get a lot of questions about my experiences there, and since that's the majority of my sourcing, um, it comes from there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. A lot of you are familiar with going to the Goodwill Outlet. I actually have been going to the Goodwill Outlet since long before I became a reseller. I only started sourcing there because of the bin pickers, knowing that that's where they were getting their inventory. And I actually just watched a YouTube video from the bin pickers talking about their return on investment, why it's so high. It's because they shop mainly at the Goodwill outlets. So I tend to subscribe more to that philosophy, but I think it's probably because I don't like to spend a lot of money up front. So I'm a pretty frugal person in general, so it's hard for me to stomach the larger receipts that I get when I thrift at regular Salvation Army Goodwill retail stores. That's not to say that I won't do it because I know what to look for, but especially when you're a beginning reseller, I think the Goodwill Outlet is a fantastic way to get your teaching and learning in, if that makes sense. So anyway, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I do when I go to the outlets. So when I don't, okay, first of all, I don't use gloves. And the reason I don't use gloves is because I learned to feel quality. I cannot feel quality if I have gloves on. Yes, the bins can be gross. No, I have never gotten sick. I have never gotten bed bugs from the bins. I have never um, had anything bad happen to me because of what I found at the bins. That said, I have found dirty diapers in the bins, which is disgusting. Luckily, my hand has never gone into one, but I'm careful. I know what I'm grabbing, right? I have seen dirty underwear. I have found, well, somebody else found a rat in a bin that I was digging in. I actually never saw it or found it myself, luckily, because I would have lost it if I had, but that happened pretty recently. I have, I'm trying to think of other gross things. You know, like I've stuck my hands in something wet before, and that's awful. I have finally gotten around to being able to grab the corner of a bath mat to move it to get to the clothing underneath because bath mats and bedding just really, really gross me out. But I have found good things under it, so it's worth it, right? So anyway, that's the things you have to look out for, and it's why people use gloves, but I don't because I need to feel what I'm picking. So I don't use gloves. I don't use hand sanitizer while I'm there, but I do wash my hands very thoroughly when I'm finished, and I keep a bottle of sanitizer in my car for after my bin runs. So that's my my germ tactics, germ avoiding tactics. I don't, some people use face masks when they're in the bins. I don't. Sometimes the bins make me sneeze, so that's a bummer. I try not to draw too much attention to myself. So I will avoid bins that smell strongly of cigarette smoke. I will avoid bins that smell strongly of cat pee or very heavily of dirty dog. That happens sometimes. And I will avoid bins that smell like mothballs. So I have not ever figured out the way to get cigarette smoke and mothball smell out and cat pee smell out. So I will not go digging in those bins where I smell it right off. I will avoid those bins. That's about the only thing that I'll avoid though in the bins. And that happens not every day, and certainly not every bin. The next bin will surely have quality items to pick through. So that's just my disclaimer on stinky bins. So my methods for shopping at the bins, I usually, when I walk in, I do a quick survey, and they mix kind of, well, they'll put bins, lines of hard goods, lines of clothing, lines of shoes, lines of media, and then I'll just decide where I want to go. I don't go for the really high piled bins because I find that they're more difficult to get through, and sometimes they can be so overwhelming to try just to move that I end up not being able to find anything in them just because it's such a high pile. So I go for full bins that are easy to move. That's kind of my technique as far as that is concerned. And I try to find uh, bins close to each other when I first enter because I like to get there at the beginning or when they open when all the bins are fresh. So that way I can kind of systematically decide which ones I'm going to hit next after I'm finished with the one that I'm in. So that's my method to picking at the bins. I used to be one of those people that would just grab large piles and like toss them over, and while that's necessary with the really tall piled bins, I'm starting to kind of pull big items. So what I try to do is I look for the big, most obtrusive items. Oh, I left my door open, so you're going to see my pets probably. There's my dog, Virginia. Um, anyway, I will pick kind of the large items, like if there's a sheet or a very large coat, I will pick those first and try to pull them over to the side so I can get to the nitty gritty. When I'm first there, everybody's moving really fast to fill up their cart, so I do try to go pretty quickly. So I'm looking for quality and not necessarily like looking very specifically at each tag. If it feels like it could be good, I'm going to throw it in my cart. So I'm basically building a like stack in my cart of what to go through later and determine. So that's how I do that. If I get there midday or I've been there for a while and all the bins have been pretty well picked through, then I can start to take my time a little bit more, look at each item as I'm putting it into my bin or into my cart. So that is how I proceed with picking at the bin. So as soon as I finish going through all the clothing that's there, typically that's when they start rotating through new bins. So then it's kind of this fine line for me where I start to go through my cart and throw back stuff that's either damaged or not a good brand that will sell. I will look up comps if I need to, although I probably am mostly well versed on brands, but if I'm finding a new brand, I will take a look at comps to see if it's worth picking up, especially if it's a super heavy item. And sometimes I need a second cart for that, so I'm putting all my keep items in a brand new cart. So I'll put my two carts together at the end of a row. At my Goodwill Outlet, I can get away with not keeping my cart with me at all times. When it gets super busy, they'll actually announce over the loudspeaker to keep your cart with you at all times, because if they're running low on carts, employees will start going through finding carts that look to be abandoned and saying, is this anyone's cart? And then they'll throw the stuff back in the bin, and I don't want to be that person, but I'm keenly aware of that. So I'll be listening for that and watching for that, but I always know where my cart is, and I will sometimes grab a sheet or a big blanket or something to cover my cart. So I don't have anybody looking through my cart. That's happened a couple of times to me a while ago. Somebody actually stole one of my personal coats, like the coat that I had worn to the bin, and left it in my cart. Somebody took my coat out of my bin, and it was just like a Gap hoodie, whatever. But that was irritating to me. And then I did have somebody one time, I was like on the other side of the outlet shopping in a bin, and I saw somebody picking through my cart, and I was like, hey, get out of my cart. Like, totally called him out on it. And then he left because he got caught. So that's, anyway, I'm trailing, but I wanted to just kind of make mention of the fact that I am pretty comfortable leaving my cart, but I'm very aware of what's going on with it. But I need my hands free, and honestly, when it's busy, I can't keep my cart next to me without obstructing the bins, and people get really irritated about that. If you butt your cart up next to the bin and they can't shop where your cart is, they will physically move your cart. I had somebody, actually, one time when I took my son when he was younger, he was sitting in the cart and somebody took him and moved him, and I was like, oh no, you don't move my kid. So I'm pretty non-confrontational until you start messing with my kids. So anyways, that's my typical experience of the bins. So after I fill it up, I last about 3 hours at the bins. 2 to 3 hours is my max point. I've tried to go longer, and usually by hour 4, I'm just done. I'm not even seeing stuff in the bins anymore. And you could put like a new with tags Lululemon in front of me, and I wouldn't pick it because it's like I can't even, like there's a mental block at that point. So I'm good for 3 hours. I do, I make sure that everything that I sell that comes from the bins is clean. So I do laundry, eBay laundry every week, to make sure that all my stuff is fresh and clean and does not smell bad. Some stuff is new with tags, so obviously I'm not going to clean that. Some stuff has been freshly laundered, and you can tell when you get it home that it's clean. Sometimes it's an item that isn't stained, but it just feels gross. I will wash those things too. And I will always, always wash bedding, bras. I don't sell a lot of bedding. I'll back up, but like vintage sheets, I will wash any sheets or bedding that comes into my house right away. I will wash athletic pants or shorts, cycling gear, and bras. So those all get laundered for obvious reasons. So, okay, so that's my Goodwill Outlet tips. I want to make sure I've covered everything there. So I love the outlets. I'm not easily grossed out by them. I was a little bit more so when I first started. I would avoid a lot more things, but you know, it's just dirt. It's just grime. Yeah, sometimes it's gross. Some things are grosser than others. And if it's really gross, like if something's covered in dog hair, like a dog like used the item as a bed, I've gotten to the point where it's just not worth picking up for me. I don't want to spend an hour cleaning up an item that has a bunch of dog hair on it. So I have learned to be pretty picky with the condition of the items that are coming home with me from the bins. If it's going to require a ton of fabric shaving or any of that, I'm just going to leave it there. So, all right, I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you venture out and go find a Goodwill outlet. It is quite an adventure, although I understand it's not for everyone. Some of my friends think it's pretty disgusting what I do, but you know, they respect my game, so that's how I roll. Anyway, leave me any questions or comments in the comment section here, and I'm happy to answer any questions, or come follow me over on Instagram at Thrifting for the Nest, all one word, and I'm happy to answer any questions over there as well. Thanks for following, you guys. Have a great day.